Good morning, everyone. This is Anae Agostini, CID Insurance Programs. I'm CEO, and I am going to take some time to teach this webinar this morning on advancing your commercial insurance department with and hopefully with CID. I have been in the commercial business, insurance business on the retail side. I was for many years. Before we started a wholesale company, and so I think I understand your needs, and I would love to share some of the things that we perfected during that time that may be of help to you. So let's get started. But I want to say, feel free to. Everyone's going to be muted because there's too many of you, so we can't all talk at once. And so when you have questions, please just type them into the chat area, and I'll make sure that I answer them as we go. If you find that you want to talk further later, I'll certainly be glad to. We could set up a GoToMeeting where we could have an individual conversation about things that we might be able to help you with. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you've got to look at is the balancing act. Okay, what is your book of business made up of? And typically when insurance brokers get started, we all know that there's a tendency for personal lines to be the easiest place to get started. And so books can get heavy on personal lines, and because you get started with personal lines because it's very much like a cookie cutter. You've got boilerplate type policies and exposures that you can understand and learn quickly. However, personal lines is very, very heavy labor. Service is intense on that. So it really can defeat your purpose, because really what you want is a balanced book. And commercial business is harder to learn because there's so many classes of business and types of coverage that you have to learn about. And that CID, where we're here, to really help hold your hand on that. But you want to be able to balance that book of business between personal lines and commercial. And then many times there's an expectation that you're going to be writing some life as well, depending on whether you're a captive agent or whether you're trying to offer other lines of business to your client base, and it's pertinent. So, but the balance between personal lines and commercial is really the key here. So next, once you start to see, when you've decided that your book is too off, you need to balance it out. So how do you go about moving in that direction? So new business, and I recommend running your renewals and your new business on the same equation. But let's talk about new business for right now. Sales equation is super important. This is a wonderful, simple way to look at the sales equations. How to obtain new business. X dating plus presentation plus close equals the sale. And the key here is you have to be paying attention to all three parts of the sales equation in order to be successful. You can do a lot of X dating, and you may fail at the presentation. By the way, we've got lots of templates that can help you with presentations. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then you have to ask for the business, and that's really what your close is in order to get the bind. So there's a follow-up process. And if you're not paying attention to all three of the sections, your chances are less that you're going to be successful at writing a lot of new business. And again, feel free to ask questions as we go through. Okay, so let's break this sales equation down. The X dating. So ideally, you have to start a plan. It could be a plan that you're going to go after specific classes of business in commercial insurance that you feel like you've learned about or you're interested in. You might be interested in garage. You might be interested in. You might be more interested in professional services businesses. that consultants, that kind of thing, that that have that professional exposure. So it could be, and then you could do a variety thereof, no problem. But you have to create a filing system for your risk profiles, and that is where you're developing a profile on the risk, developing X dates, expiration dates, and then you're and really it's a numbers game. You've got to be able to put together a lot of X dates in order for you to even be able to quote a certain percentage of those, right? And then you'll ultimately close a certain percentage of those that you do a presentation for. So it's you make your contacts. You're going to need to do some data mining. You're going to make personal contacts, and POS systems activities are really helpful. That's a point of sale. So a great example would be, a management company, a property management company. You can go in there and write their insurance, and then you can use them as a POS to write all of the properties they manage. So those kind of things. Network groups can be really valuable as well. If you pick an industry, get involved in a network that supports that industry. And attend and get to know. You can get your clients easily that way. Same thing with trade organizations, which is similar. A network could be it could be a little bit different. It could be a group of people that just get together to network, and a trade organization is usually tied more specifically to a class of business that supports the industry. And then manage your profiles by a 10-week marketing schedule. So you've got to be ahead of your X dates in order to be able to have enough time to make contacts, gather the information you need, and then put a proposal out there in a timely manner so that you appear to be professional and being ahead of the game rather than providing a quote at the last minute. I mean, you should always be prepared to do that as well because you can swoop up some business that way as well. But when you're doing an X dating commercial profiling, you must be working ahead. Okay, keep going. So profile your risk and build a file. So here's the kinds of things that you're going to want to put into that file. So when you're developing an X date, you're going to go after a business, you're going to get their expiration date, you're going to need to look and see what insurance coverage is. So you're going to be looking for them to include deck pages of the prior carriers so you can gather information on what coverages that they have, photos, loss runs, and then what I call a business risk profile. We have some of those on our website, and you can find them there. But that's a simple questionnaire that you use to gather information from the insured. If they've got any, if you're going to go out for carrier quotes, you're going to obviously put those in there as well. You're going to create a proposal, which we have proposal templates on our website as well that can help you look professional. They include an invoice as well. And then if depending on the terms that the carrier offers, you may need a finance agreement. So that's how you build your file and you create order from that standpoint. And you want to do this on each X date that you build and create a little filing system where it's a monthly filing system where you're actually going to, you're going to be working 10 weeks out in order to put everything together in order to actually present and hopefully bind a policy by the expiration date. I love this one. The great secret that people don't realize is, and you have to know that there are seasoned underwriters out there that I call those that see gray, because they can make a decision based on all facts being brought into the screen. Then you'll have younger, not necessarily, well, yes, usually they're younger, but they're a little more what I call green underwriters. And so they see black and white, and that can sometimes be the challenge. So you have to be really good. But the thing is your job is to get the underwriter to say yes. And if you're working with us, we're going to be working to get the underwriter to say yes. So that's the key to that is the third bullet point there is to build a storyline, especially if your underwriter is guideline driven. Give him or her a reason that makes sense to write the business. Have documentation from the insured to support it. And so where could you fall in? Where does this fall in? Usually I'll see this kind of thing where you have a risk that's not in the box, right? There's just some things that just throw it out of the box a little bit. Well, if you can present a storyline that shows that it's not a high risk, that out of the box, it really doesn't have a high exposure to a loss, that would be one way of explaining it and supporting that. The other is if you've got some claim activity, always being able to just, to be able to have a storyline as to how they mitigated the actual a loss from happening going forward. So things like that are really important. But it's knowing your risk profile, it's understanding the risk. And I know our underwriters can help you understand that. If you're, if you're not sure, they'll point you in the right direction to go gather that information. But I want you to be aware of it on your end so you could be working ahead. So this is an interesting one, and hopefully you'll get a laugh out of this. So when you get to making the presentation, it's really important, and I think it starts way before the presentation, but because it's knowing who your prospect is. And there's typically the 4 personalities. Everyone, you can go Google and you'll see everyone's version of the different personalities. But I think they've pretty much over the years it's been 4 personalities. And so here's like a suggestion on how to present to those types. So if you've got a Rambo, a really aggressive, assertive, a shoot from the hip, makes decisions on the spot, they like more proposals. That you would want to be able to give them 3 full proposals that they could make a decision from because they like to be in control, like to make that decision. So they would want to choose from something and make a decision. Then you've got your Anderson Cooper. He's analytical, questions everything, needs time to think about it, can drive us crazy when we're trying to make the sale. But they will leave, you want to leave proposals with them with comparisons and informational kind of material. So you're actually giving them a lot more, which can be very, so if you've got to read them right, because sometimes if you give a Rambo too much information, they're not going to make a decision. They may make a decision to go with someone else because they gave them just the 3 proposals. But like an Anderson Cooper analytical type, they're going to want a lot. They want the comparisons. They want background information, more detail on each of the proposals, and then you're going to come back. Jimmy Fallon, he's indecisive, wants your opinion, and as to what is best. They're ready to move on, pass the decision, and if they trust you. He will go with your recommendation. 1 proposal or possibly 2 proposals will work well. So interesting. You can see the differences. And then you've got the Kim Kardashian, the latest and greatest, has the mentality that if everyone else is buying it, then so should, he or she, right? Always keeping up with the Joneses. So what's, for the presentation, don't push the sale, coach it, be her friend, right? So and you're probably not going to give them, you're probably going to give them less proposals in that particular situation, maybe at the most 2. And again, if you have any questions, please type it into the chat area. I would love to engage with answering any questions that you do have coming along. Okay? And here's more on so let's continue with the presentation. you want a professionally laid out proposal. And one of the things that I get most frustrated with is that there are a lot of brokers that do business with us, and we were so grateful for all of our brokers. We love you guys and really appreciate your business and love working with you. I just want but some people will use our quote that we send to you, and that is designed for you, not your insured. And so being able to provide a proposal that's professional and that you're disclosing all the pertinent information that is not designed for you, but for the insured. And again, I mentioned we've got proposal templates. If you don't see what you need, just email me, contact me, and I'll make sure that I don't have the full inventory on the website yet, but I have quite a few. Those are Word documents that they're pinked in the area where you need to fill out the information, and we have it for a lot of the coverages for businesses that are needed, and classes of business where there's specific type of coverages for different classes of business. And so you can put your logo on it, letterhead, do the whole thing with those and make them your own, and then change them up because they're in a Word document, and then make them, and there's no proprietary rights on it, and we give it to you. So it's yours to use. So you just want to make sure that you are disclosing broker's fees, state taxes, inspection charges. If there's an audit, that's always, because that's going to, that's an E&O exposure. Another one is exclusions, is another E&O exposures. I would want to make sure. I'm a big proponent. If whatever is listed on your quote, list out those exclusions so that it's clear to the insured potentially what's going to be excluded. And then you want them to be clear on what they need to do in order to bind, right? To bind the new business. Always include an invoice, premium finance options, and then be sensitive to the required signatures. But that should be under the bind only, subject to conditions. Okay? All right, so now we did our presentation. Now we need to close. So make an appointment with the client to present and close the sale. So if they're willing to see you a second time, that's a good sign for sure. That would be your opportunity to go in and overcome any objections or concerns that they may have. Sometimes it's hard to do that over the phone after or via email. So if you can get back in front of them, that's always the best way. We all know that building that relationship in person is real crucial, because it is a relationship, and that you need to treat it like a relationship. So again, you get in front of them, you're going to want to go back over the coverage benefits versus the premium. If you've got a great premium and you're beating what they currently have, then I would be focusing on both, but always being able to address your coverage benefits over the existing. Know your value-added propositions. Ask for the business. That's really crucial. And then obtain signatures and payment, a down payment at that time at the close, so that you're not waiting for them, walking out the door without a finalized sale. Many of you know a lot of this, but I'm just trying to put it all in sort of a context that maybe may make you think about it differently. Okay, securing the bind. So this is going to be when you've got to sign, you've got a bind order from your insured, right? You're going to ensure that now you're going to take it to, we're going to bring that back to us, right? So you want to ensure all the underwriting subject to bind conditions have been met. And then you're going to secure the bind with the underwriter, and then pay attention to the things that we're going to need, because that's going to hold up the whole process. We want both. We want to be efficient, and we want to train you to be efficient, because that makes you so much you can do so much more business in your company with less labor. Because when things get delayed, or you're trying to bind business with us, and we don't have everything we need, then there's this delay. Then everything sits out there, and we're having to touch things multiple times. And you are too, which, so it's always best to do it up front and get it done at one time. And that's typically going to be if there's an application needed, or a signature on the application needed, if it was subject to for loss runs, terrorism form, they need to be signed, and then any kind of state required documents. You would want to process the finance agreement, get that, and then you want a diary system to make sure that the policy is issued and paid, and then forward proof of insurance to your client to thank them for their business and thank them for their business. So all of that is in the details, and so we'll talk a little bit more about, chances are you're not going to be able to do all of this yourself, but we're going to see, and we'll talk about how you could utilize other people to make that happen. So one thing we learned a long time ago, and even as a wholesaler, that we use this to this day. We found that when you monitor your monthly production, your new business production, right? It is way too late to take a look at it at the end of the month, because by the time it's all in your system, you're probably 45 days after the first of the month, right? And so you're way behind the gun if your production is not going well, right? And so you're looking backwards, and so it becomes harder to change. It's like, I call it turning the ship around, in the direction that you need to go. And it's sort of like keeping your head in the sand, like an ostrich. You're not specifically paying attention to your results. So we recommend weekly production, and we do that. We run weekly new business production at our company weekly. So we're looking at it, and so instead of 12 start dates, you get 52 start dates, and much quicker how you're doing. So I encourage you to take a look at running a report on your new business on a weekly basis as opposed to a monthly basis. That's really crucial in order to keep to stay on top of the results that you want to produce. Okay, managing your commercial book. So with new business, you need to have a marketing strategy, right? You have to. So incoming calls are probably going to be what I call, a bush call, which is, the person who's called everybody in the phone book. You could ask them, how many people have you called already, right? Trying to find something that doesn't, very hard to place risk, that has problems typically. Those are what you get incoming. Now, that's not to say referrals is a different story. So but not always, right? You can have some of your clients that could be referring people to you. They could be people with problems, and they could be people that are just, that they're a nice referral. Referrals are a good thing. So I'm not talking about referrals when I talk about incoming. I'm talking about the person who's going through, Googling or just trying to find someone, calling every agency in the area, trying to find someone that would look at their risk. So have a marketing strategy, be proactive, go after the business that you want to go after. That takes a marketing strategy. And then manage your commercial profiles, follow the sales equation. Remember the three parts: X date plus presentation plus close equals sale. And then set your weekly goals for premium and PIF goal and manage it weekly, right? And then increase your fee income with broker fees and premium financing. So that's always, for an agency to be, profitable, you need to be bringing in about 13.5 A 13 would probably work, but 13.5 is the number that I've always recommended, percent of not necessarily commission, but of fee income, right? And of your premium. And so to do that, you probably, not all policies are going to pay 15. A lot are going to pay 10. And so you should be charging a broker fee. We charge low broker fees so that you can stick one in there and then get to that 13.5 percentage. Also, you can arrange relationships with premium financing companies where they will actually pay you a percentage on every policy that you finance. So always ask your premium finance company as to what relationship you can establish with them in order to earn income from that process. Okay. Again, let's talk about renewal business. You want to treat every renewal like new business. So, and I can't stress that enough, because commercial insurance is not as service intensive as personal lines, where they're calling you on a more regular basis. Commercial, they don't typically call you throughout the year. So it is really important for you to make sure that you are touching base once a year, and then treat them as if, you're treating them like a queen or king. You're taking good care of them at that renewal, because that's that moment that you can easily lose. This is your renewal business is your bread and butter, and you need to keep that relationship in order to keep that book stable. So remember, you're always trying to bring in new business, but if it's going out the back door at renewal, then you're really not accomplishing anything, and you possibly could be going backwards. So you have to manage both of those, that process. You have to maintain your renewals. And there's going to be a certain amount you're going to lose no matter what. So you can, and then you just have to make sure that you get a gain on your new business side. So managing by report is important for renewals. If you have an agency management system for your independent book, great. You can run a report. You should run it monthly, and you should work off an expiration report and manage by it. We use a color coding system to say, renewed or not renewed, right? So that we're managing that ongoing. And then you want to know your retention and lapse ratios. So retention is, are you keeping your renewals past 12 months? So the worst situation you can have is you write a new policy and then it either cancels midterm in the first year, or it doesn't make it to the 13th month, which makes it a renewal, right? You got to be watching that, because that's like a revolving problem that you want to monitor. Lapse is anything after 13 months. So did you lose it the second year and it's not renewed? You didn't renew it. So you want to establish what those ratios are. If you have any questions, I'd certainly be able to help you with that. I have a question. Can you tell me where to find your prospect templates? Yes, that is under our why am I drawing a blank? It's up on the top menu. Jacob, can you help me with that? Are you there, Jacob?
Yeah, so those, the proposal templates are on our website. They are, if you hover over the resources tab on the top and then click templates, we have a bunch of different templates right there.
Yep. And by the way, I didn't introduce Jacob. Jacob is our marketing specialist. He does a great job, and so he runs these webinars and puts them all together for you. So, hopefully that answers your question. And let me know if you don't see what you need, because we can customize something for you. So thanks, Jacob. Back to renewals. So you want to make sure that you're managing policy audits as well, because that can really bite you. They'll, depending on whether it's work comp, but you've got contractors, those are all audited policies. And if they're underestimating payroll, you can get bit on that, because they'll come around and there'll be a big audit, premium amount due for the audit, and then you're scrambling because they don't give you a payment plan for that. They want, usually you can negotiate something, but not much. And so those audits, and if they don't pay, they can cause a cancellation on the current policy. So that's really important on renewals. And those audits come out usually right after the policy renews, right? And you're in a new term, and then they go do the audit for the prior year. Other thing is as I mentioned earlier, referrals are really important. So if you've got a client that you're doing business with, ask them for a referral, because they're going to know somebody, that's in business, because they're a business person. And that's something we forget about all the time. So it's really important to ask for renewals. So last, I think we're getting close to the end, but 5 mistakes agents make with staff. Okay, so when you're a small agency, some of you may be a bigger agency, but also if you're at an agency and you need someone to assist you ultimately going forward. The mistake is when you don't hire to duplicate yourself, you hire someone to do administrative work or something like that. And I do that in my own company. I'm duplicating parts of me, and for the most part, duplicating what I do, the whole concept, direction that we want to go, our objective, to write new business. So I'm duplicating when I should be duplicating when I hire. I pay people the value that they're due, so I don't try and cheat people, because you won't keep them if you're not paying them a fair wage for what they're capable of bringing to the table. Not holding them to the same level of marketing consistency that you are doing yourself. They're part of that process. They should be part of your team when you're duplicating, and their objectives should be the same as yours. Systems is a huge one. And if you're not good at it, find someone who is, and communicate what the systems need to be, let them get implemented. That's one thing that we have done very well as a company, both wholesale and retail, is to develop systems, operating systems, and new business systems. So your production and your renewals and all the procedures of dotting all the I's and crossing the T's that have to be done get done. So don't forget about that, and try not to be overwhelmed. Take all these things. If you're on this webinar, and take all these things and break them up into little parts and work a little bit on each of them as you go forward. The other thing is bad time management. It's like always knowing what your priorities are, and not focusing on time in areas where you're not going to be effective. That's pretty important, and you have to teach your staff to be the same way. Last, we're close. There's a few more. The F word in business. So this is a really, really good way when you've got a customer who's not happy. You're trying to develop a relationship with them. The 3 F's is pretty important: feel, felt, and found. So you're going to tell them that you know how they feel. You're going to say, I've felt the same way, and so have others. And then, so here's what I've found. And that's where you go into expressing what you're communicating, the value proposition that you have on the table, or a solution for them in your presentation. Or, this can be used for problem solving, in service, right? Both new business, renewals, across the board. Okay, managing your commercial book, service. again, I think this goes back to having systems in place. Duplicate yourself. You want to work smart, have forms and templates for people to use. You can go all the way to using time management sheets. Use good judgment and problem solving. Use the 3 F's to accomplish that. And then prevent cancellations. That's you need a payment follow-up system. I can't say how important that is. We've implemented, and I'm going to be doing some webinars on this kind of thing and more on renewals to get the systems part of it that will be helpful to you. So look for those to come soon. I think I have one in December. And so you need a late pay system, and if you are struggling with that, feel free to reach out to us, because we've got a system that we can send you so that you can get started somewhere on your independent book. And then make sure you're cross-selling too. That's pretty important, because that's where you can get into E&O problems where you are not offering all the coverages that they need. So I want to thank you guys for attending. Make sure you visit our website. We've got applications, educational tools. We have marketing material that you can put your name on. You can see what are all our webinars upcoming. I think we're just getting ready to publish our 2019 webinars. Plus, we have all of these webinars are recorded, so you can listen to them. And this one will be published. We'll send it out to you that attended, and then you can find it on the website as well. And that's under resources as well, under the webinar tab. So thank you again for joining us, and have a great day. Bye.